Shadow people. A patch of black mass in the form of a living humanoid figure. Are they just a symptom of sleep deprivation, or are they the thing that goes bump in the night? Grab a blanket, make some tea, because here's 3 true terrifying stories of shadow people. A dark encounter. This story is a little hard to talk about, because for so long it remained a repressed memory from a bad time in my childhood. But I feel like I should share all of my paranormal experiences here because I am curious about the feedback and if anyone else here of your ghost stories had experienced anything similar to me and can give me some insight into why I had this encounter and what exactly I saw as a child. This recount begins when I was 12. I was living in a small rural town of Glen Innes, Australia with my mother and my newborn baby sister. We lived in a subdivided old doctor's surgery, which they had converted into duplex apartments. The ceilings were tall and the walls were whitewashed cement, with large old blocked-off fireplaces in each of the 3 bedrooms. The bedrooms were cold and the fireplaces howled at night when the wind was caught in them. A long, eerie hallway connected each of the rooms. It was a creepy home. My mother had the room closest to the main living area, lounge, kitchen, etc., whereas my room was further up the long, dark hallway and was much more secluded. I specifically remember the night I stopped sleeping in my bedroom. It was a school night and I had stayed up watching television in the lounge room late, so when I was finally sleepy, I said goodbye to my mom and wandered back to my room. It was cold as usual and the hallway was dark. I always felt something shadowing me every time I made my way to my room, so I hurried back to my room. I never had the guts to turn around. Shutting my door with a click, I ran to my bed across the room and jumped under the covers like all kids tend to do when frightened. My bed faced the doorway, so I remember trying to fall asleep with my covers wrapped around my head and my eye fixed on the door handle. Paranoia was a common feeling in this house. Then, after a long moment of silence and waiting, when I was finally drifting, I heard a set of slow, distinct footsteps on the carpet in the hallway. Heavy footfalls. At first I thought it was my mom moving around her room, but when I could finally pinpoint the sound to the hallway, I started to see my door slowly creak open. The darkness from the hallway seemed so much darker than the pitch black of my bedroom. I shut my eyes hard, refusing to acknowledge the exposed doorway in an attempt to force myself to sleep. What I saw moments later will never leave me. A tall, thin shadow man stood a foot before my doorway. When I opened my eyes, my heart stopped. My whole body cold and paralyzed with fear. Its arms were long and its fingers were sharp. I couldn't see eyes, but I felt it stare. It didn't seem clothed either, just a silhouette. Its feet dragged on the carpet as the body swayed from side to side as it came closer to my bed. I was in tears now, thinking it had come to take me. It had come to drag me from my bed and into the darkness, and I was never going to see my mom again. I blacked out before I could reach my bed, and I don't remember anything else from that night. I woke to the door wide open in the morning, and I ran out of that room and slept on the couch every night since. I didn't tell my mom. I was too nervous to sleep with her because she shared her bed with my baby sister, so I began to develop an anxiety disorder, which resulted in me wetting myself to sleep every single night. The second experience happened in the lounge room. Whatever it was, it seemed was following me room to room. I refused to sleep without the TV on during the night, and I would have all of the doors closed and fall asleep watching the darkened doorway to the kitchen anxiously. I never trusted the dark. On this night, after lightly drifting to sleep, I woke up to the sound of the TV being switched off. The hair on the back of my neck stood up, and the air was freezing. I nervously scanned the dark room until I faced the corner closest to me on the right. It was standing in the corner, a tall, dark figure. I didn't know what to do, but I felt like I was in fight or flight, and being a timid 12-year-old girl, I don't think I had much fight in me. I was frozen with fear for a long moment, waiting for movement, for it to give some sign of life so I could make a break for it. But it just watched me, and I watched it, hoping it would just dissolve away into the wall so I could brush it off as my eyes playing tricks in the dark. And then I heard it. A hiss. It leaned forward slightly and stomped its foot hard on the carpet and began a deep hiss. And at that point, I jumped back and ran for my mother's bedroom, which I cried loudly and screamed that it was going to get me. I never saw it directly since. Only quick movements out of the corner of my eye, and my mom let me sleep with her until we finally moved away from that place a month later. I revisited these memories on my own when I went through old photos of my newborn sister. She's 12 now, and it shocked me at how vividly I remember it all taking place. I spoke to my mother again about what happened, and she told me that she had also experienced strange things in that house: footsteps, cold spots, being watched, knocking on the doors and walls, and even one case where the corner end of her bed depressed during the night, as though someone was sitting with her. I'll never forget that house, and I still don't know who or what I encountered as a child, but I have not encountered anything similar since. That being said, I have had many more paranormal experiences, but none of that resembles shadow figures. Thank you for reading. Darker Than the Night. This is my first story here. I have been having an internal struggle whether or not post my experiences online. Due to psychological fears, fear of being ridiculed, fear of people not believing me, and so on. But having been a frequent visitor to this website, I have realized that almost all of the members here are supportive to those who have truly experienced things which cannot be explained away rationally. Onto my story. Around 3 years back, my family used to own a new 4-bedroom villa in the suburbs. My dad was working in another country, and so only my mom, my sister, and I used to live in that house. I used to visit only during weekends or holidays since I was doing my master's in a different city. While I was home, we used to sleep in the same master bedroom downstairs, mainly because my mom was paranoid about burglars and sought strength and unity. I have had several experiences in that house. I used to push it off into the recesses of my consciousness and explain it away as my eyes playing tricks on me. The incident I am going to narrate is very significant to me since it proved to me beyond doubt that these incidences were not a figment of my imagination. This is one of the first incidents that's happened to me since we moved in. There is a saying in India that you should lie with your head facing east or north, but never towards the south. When I used to come home, my mom used to place another bed alongside the king-size bed so that we can all sleep parallel to each other. In order for the beds to fit, we had to place the beds in such a way that when we lie down, we would have our heads to the south. I do not know how much logic and reason is there behind the saying. That all I know is that your body's energy and karmic chakra is affected by the magnetic pull and energy of the earth, while it orbits the sun, and the balance of positive and negative energy is affected. Vague, I know. So back to our story. Whenever I used to come home and retire for the night in this position, I used to have this unexplained fear. True, blood-running cold fear that suddenly takes over my thoughts in the middle of the night. There used to be no particular reason to trigger the fear. Sometimes I'll be sleeping peacefully when I wake up with a start, drenched in cold sweat, heart beating fast and shivering like a cornered animal. I used to get the distinct feeling that someone was watching me from the foot of the bed. I never saw anything then, just felt it. This became an everyday occurrence. I was afraid to sleep near the end of the bed. My mom tried everything, but nothing made that night terror go away. One night, I slept in the middle, with my mom and sister on either side. That night, I slept soundly. Next morning, my mom made us shift around the furniture in the room so that somehow we managed to have the huge beds placed the right way, with our head facing east. After that, I did not experience anything. To this day, I still do not know whether placing your head in a particular way while you sleep actually affects us in any way or not. The day I was going back to my dorm, my mom revealed something to me about her hasty decision to move the bed's position, which still gives me chills when I think about it. The night before the shift, my mom was sleeping where I generally sleep, and she too woke up in the middle of the night with a strange feeling. She shrugged it off and decided to go to the bathroom, which was attached to the bedroom, right across where she was sleeping, about 3 feet away, in fact. There was a cupboard a few inches away from the bathroom door, and this created a slight gap big enough for a child to sit in. The room was flooded with light coming through the window from the streetlights outside. In this light, my mom saw a dark shadow resembling a person, a man, sitting in that corner between the cupboard and the door. It had its head on its knees posture, and as my mom looked on, it lifted its head and slowly stood up. It glided up the wall and vanished. My mom was totally shook up, but she never went over and turned on the bathroom light. She saw nothing in the corner that could explain away the sighting. There was no vehicle that passed by on the road either for its headlights to create the shadows on the wall. Now, my mom is a very practical person, and she would never say something like this as a joke unless she really truly believes what she saw. This cleared all of my suspicions. After this incident, we had a priest come over and do a cleansing ritual, which we call it puja, in our home, and we didn't have that particular event again for a while. Shadow Man brings knowledge. Ever since I was about 5 or 6, I used to see this Shadow Man. I would only see him out of the corner of my eye, so I passed it off as my eyes playing tricks on me. One day when I was about 6 or 7, I was sitting in the living room that overlooked my kitchen. I blinked and saw the man standing in the kitchen looking back at me. He had no face or any distinct features. He was just a solid black human-like shape. He never talked or moved. I started crying, and me being the youngest child, my mom told me I saw it because I was mean to my siblings. I quickly cleaned up my act, but I still saw him frequently. For a while after that incident, I could only see him out of the corner of my eye. However, one night, I had a really bad dream that caused me to wake up to sleep with my mom. I was about 8 or 9 at the time. Again, out of the corner of my eye, I saw him standing in the kitchen. However, this time his head appeared to explode and his face became clear. It looked scary. As I can remember, evil grin, laughing, but no sound. It flew in front of my face until I ran past it and jumped onto the couch and began screaming for my mom to come out. She said it wasn't real and laid on the other couch while I watched cartoons. A few minutes later, when she fell asleep, I began to feel something watching me. I looked up and saw a man, the same shape and size as the black figure, wearing a blue tuxedo with red glowing eyes, gel-backed hair, smiling. Upon jumping off the couch, he disappeared. I never saw him again. One day, years after all of this, and the Shadow Man left my life, or so I thought, I took a nap at my aunt's house at about 4 or 5 in the morning. I awoke, being unable to move or yell for help. shaking and being shoved deep into the couch. Many people I told about this passed it off as sleep paralysis, but I knew what it really was. Although I have not physically seen the Shadow Man since then, I have felt like I have the ability to see things happen before they actually occur. Not really like visions, but like stories in the form of dreams. I see things happen to people, such as someone dying in my family. The things almost always happen. Still, to this day, I have the ability to foresee the future to some degree. Though I have moved many times since, I have very recently started feeling the man's presence again. Doors that were closed will open, and doors that were open will close. Things I value fall off sturdy shelves, and the doorbell often rings when nobody is there. But I'm very close to falling asleep. I will hear a pounding sound, a grunt, my name being called, or faint whispering that will scare me awake. I know the Shadow Man is always watching me, but to this day, I hope I will never have to face him again.